Jan?
Yeah.
Okay. Morning, everybody. Call the meeting to order. First business is, would you please call the roll? Michelle?
Mr. Roussettes?
Here.
Mr. Rockmacher?
Here.
Mr. Ward?
Here.
Mr. Nichols?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Good morning.
Mr. Orzech?
Here.
Ms. Weir? Here.
Okay. So, I guess the first part is approval of the February 14th, 25 minutes that were sent to you in the email.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Can we just voice approve this stuff, or do we have to go through the roll? Sir?
You can go ahead and just
Okay,
voice it, or you can
Okay.
just approve it without objection.
okay. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I get slapped down on that more times. Okay, new business. May 25th financial statements.
All right, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in this morning. We have the May financials here. There's really nothing too exciting with them. We're pretty much the same spot this year that we were last year. Looking at the revenue, I've got up on the screen already this major sources of revenue. The blue line's going to be income tax. We're within $13,000 of where we were last year, so pretty flat there. The gray line there is the admissions tax. The admissions tax, we're about $8,800 above where we were last year. And the orange line there is our lodging tax. Lodging tax is down slightly, about $2,900 compared to last year. Looking at total revenue, from year-to-date May 2025, we're at 11.4 million. Last year, we were 11.9 million. I want to point out one of the differences here is that we did have that $900,000 transfer last year, the advance that was repaid back in May of last year, so that revenue came in May of 2024. We do not have any advances out there that need to be repaid this year. So that looks like has an escalated number in 2024 compared to where we were at in 2025. Moving on to the expenditures, blue line at the top is the administrative support. As we've talked about, those support numbers include any amounts that we transfer, whether it was for Issue 8 promises or part of the Cedar Fair partnership deal for admissions and parking tax. Those transfers have been happening. This year, we're at $4.8 million in administrative support. The next two lines kind of looks like it's a reddish-orange color is fire, and the other blue line is police department. They're very similar in expenditures for the year. At the bottom, yellow line is municipal court, and the gray line is the horticulture and public realm. So that's our forestry division and all of our public realm expenses and activities go through those departments. When you break down the expenses and when you look just at the different categories, the blue line is our wages and fringe benefits. You can see that line at the top. We're about $6.5 million this year in wages and fringe benefits, which is actually slightly down from where we were last year. The yellow line is the amount of transfers. We're at $4.3 million in transfers this year. That compares to where we were in about 2023. Orange line there is contractual services, and the gray line is supplies and materials. Looking at the total expenditures and transfers year to date, so 2024 we're about almost $12 million, and in 2025 we're about 12.9. So as a reflection of the budget so far this year, what we've budgeted versus what we expended, we've expended 39% of our budget. So we're 5/12 of the years gone through with being in May, so that would be about 41%. So we spent 39% of what we budgeted for the year, so everything looks to be on track there as far as expenditures go. On the revenue side, we did receipt in about 36% of what we budgeted so far year to date in May, but as we all know, being the tourist town, a lot of our income will be coming in now that Cedar Point opened last month in May. We'll start seeing the revenue here in June throughout the rest of the season. Cash balance. So this slide shows the general fund cash balance. We ended May with a $5.1 million, very similar to where we were last year. We were $5.1 $1.37 million. So again, pretty comparable to where we were this same time last year. The only thing that it's a little bit different in the numbers is that $900,000 advance that was repaid last year in 2024. The last slide here shows our employee counts. We're at 248 full-time employees. Police and fire department, as typical, you know, they have the largest number of employees. Our fire department is fully staffed at the moment. Police department, we're still short a couple officers, but we actively recruiting still. So that is all I have for May financials. Happy to answer anybody's questions, comments, or concerns.
Anybody have any questions on,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
do you have
I have questions.
Sure.
So, Michelle, would you remind us, please, of the $900,000 advance? I don't remember the details regarding that.
So that was a grant, a state grant for the Perkins Avenue project, which seems like forever ago. But that grant for Perkins Avenue, the funds didn't come in. It was kind of a last-minute award. The state had additional funds in the end of 2023. They awarded us the money. We had the expenditure because the project was wrapping up at the end of 2023, but the state didn't actually give us the grant dollars until May of 2024. So at the end of 2023, we had to advance money from the general fund to the state grants fund because we made the expenditures, but the cash didn't come in by the end of the year. So we transferred money from the general fund over to the state grant fund, and then when it was repaid and received the grant funds from the state in 2024, we were able to pay back what was owed to the general fund, so that revenue came in 2024.
So that had the net effect of appearing to inflate revenues for 2024?
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And the other questions I had are, could you remind me, or the committee, please, of the funds that are coming in for the parking tax and the funds that are coming in for the rec center levy, or the recreational levy, I should say. Are those funds are those monies in a fund awaiting use, or are we using those today? I don't recall.
So the rec levy, those are separate funds. They were within the recreation fund. We created a new fund, Fund number 228. I'll have the exact title here for you. The title of the fund is Recreation Center. So we have not expended those funds except for anything that's related to the rec center. So there is some design that's going on. Those are the only thing that's been expensed out of there. The other thing that goes as an expense in that fund is it's coming in through property taxes. So there is a small fee that the auditors charge when they collect the property taxes. But those are the only expenditures that will be going through there until we get to the point where we're building a rec center.
And we have long contemplated providing funds as part of that long-term deal with Cedar Point for the causeway construction. Are we setting aside some of those funds for the time being, or are we waiting for a final agreement with them to start making those determinations?
Both. We're still waiting on a final agreement from Cedar Fair for the project of the causeway, but we have set aside those funds because we expect that to be a finalized deal soon. So we do have funds set aside to help with the causeway project for Cedar Fair, but we are still waiting for the finalized document.
Okay, and is that part of our cash reserve, or is that just a separate fund that we've set aside?
That is sitting in the capital fund.
Okay. We love high interest rates while all this goes on, so that's good.
all these little pockets, Dennis?
There's a lot of rules and regulations on where everything's going, but yes, it's all separately accounted for.
I knew all those things, I'm sure, but I forgot, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Happens with age.
Dennis, can I, or Mr. Chairman, can I piggyback on Dennis's question?
Sure.
Where the causeway funds have collected somewhere, my knowledge is somewhere around 4 million so far on that causeway tax or something like that. And can maybe at the next meeting, can you show us where that exactly is, or pull up the screen? And
I can absolutely show you exactly the count numbers because there's different categories, and I didn't bring all of that information with me. But off the top of my head, it was $1.25 million that we were going to set aside for 20 years to help with the Causeway project. So at this point, since we don't have a finalized agreement, we do have funds that have accumulated for that purpose, but they're not, we could use them for other things at this point because we don't have a finalized deal. So we're kind of waiting for that finalized commitment, and then the 20-year clock would start from that point forward.
So the clock starts when Cedar Point picks a contractor, which I believe is going to be this fall for the project.
We need a finalized agreement with them and then approval from City Commission.
So the clock doesn't start until there's a finalized agreement. The MOU, it didn't start with the MOU, it starts on the day that the commission approves it.
So when you say the clock starts, obviously, I guess maybe I'm missing something here, but we now have some funds set aside that we're earning money on, and we're waiting for Cedar Fair to tell us what they're going to do. Then, depending upon how much they're gonna put in, and how much we're gonna put in, is that something we're gonna have to bond out or get notes or something?
That is not the intention. So to Mr. Stahl's point, we have an MOU that's pretty much like a guideline. We've used that for a guideline. These are things that were committed and talked about between the city and Cedar Fair. We're using that as a guideline, but we still need a finalized document from them with additional details. So once that final document comes out, the final agreement with all the details, because they're going through their process on that causeway to get final numbers and see how much it's actually going to cost, so we can finalize the agreement and get the commitments that the city promised before in writing back to them.
So we're collecting effectively, and correct me if you want me to stop, but I believe we're collecting money based upon the MOU, and you're waiting for a finalized agreement. Is that the quick way to say it?
Absolutely, that's correct.
Okay, and we suspect that clock to start, well, as soon as they sign it, then we'll start doing the 20 years will kick in at that day. Hasn't really kicked in today since it's been under the MOU, but would kick in the minute that we sign the deal.
Correct.
Correct? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee?
I'll make
take a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion that we approve the finance report as
Thank you.
submitted.
I'll second.
Second, discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Any old business that anybody has?
The only thing I want to add about old business is that you guys brought up the rec center. We're still in the process of getting final design for the rec center. So when that comes about, there will be some financing that needs to take place for the rec center. So we'll keep you guys apprised of that as that develops. But at this point, we don't have any final information on the rec center for you.
Mr. Chair, can I ask another question? Sure. The rec center, is that following the same thing with the causeway, that really we're collecting the money for the rec center now? The Cedar Point portion of that won't really kick in until we have a final agreement on that also?
I think that one is probably more a city project because it is going to be a city rec center. So the funding has been in place for, and the Cedar Fair partnership involved $700,000, and that was for the construction of the rec center. And I know we also have the operating levy that we got approval from the voters on the ballot. So,
Sure.
You know, there's two different pieces of this rec center coming to fruition here. But yeah, yes, we do have funds, and we have been using some of those funds. Like we said, the rec center right now is under design, trying to get it to final bid process.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman.
Anything else under old business?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
If I could just add, also another project that you're familiar with is the landing project. We anticipate having that project before a commission next month in July. So that'll be debt notes or whatever for that project. We're right about at the final 2-yard line trying to get in. So the landing project will be coming in July to commission. As it stands now, the rec center will probably be around August-ish before we get numbers and look at that project for commission to evaluate. So just to give you a timeline of both of those projects.
Got a lot of moving pieces.
Correct.
Any other old business before? Okay, public, participation. Anybody have any questions or want to say anything? No? Okay. I am going to need a motion to go into executive session to have a discussion with the auditors.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. Would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Russo?
Here.
Mr. Mutcher?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Orzett?
Yes.
Mrs. Wheeler?
Yes.
So is there anybody in the room that needs to go?
No.
Okay.
We'll make sure Tom turns off the live stream, though.
were 100% right, but.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we conclude executive session.
Second?
You need to call the roll on that?
Mr. Rousseau?
Yes.
Mr. Moncher?
Yes.
Ms. Murray?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Yes.
Mr. Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Wojtek?
Yes. We are now
Peter,
officially
yes.
out of the executive session. Now, is there anything further that any of the committee members would like to say?
Yes, as we come out of executive session and have heard from the independent auditors, I'd like to make sure that the City Commission recognizes Michelle Reeder, Sally Martin, John Orzak, and their entire team for an outstanding job that they did for the 2024 audit, 2023 audit. It goes way back. They've been doing an outstanding job for many years, and we know that they will continue to do outstanding work for the city of Sandusky, and I just want to make sure they're publicly recognized for that.
Thank you. I think everybody echoes that same sentiment.
And it does,
I've been here for a lot of years. It's,
It's the best it's been.
yes. So, anybody have anything else they would wish to discuss? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.